This video is long overdue. Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy Dynasty back again with another Mortal Kombat 1 video, and today will be a video dedicated to my Mortal Kombat 1 wish list. We did the predictions earlier in the week, and now we are finally to do the wish list for who I want to see in this game. Now, we already have 8 characters confirmed to be in the roster, so I'll be going over another 20 base characters plus an additional 6 DLC characters as well for a grand total of 26. That would put us around 35 characters, including the confirmed characters from the announcement trailer. I think we'll probably peak just under 40, including some guest characters as well. And speaking of guest characters, if you've not seen my top 10 guest characters for MK1 video, I'll have a card on the screen right now, so you can go ahead and go check that out. But before we break down my Mortal Kombat 1 wish list, I want to say a massive thank you to today's sponsor. Big thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. I imagine most of you don't even realize how many different subscriptions you currently have right now, just because every single thing in the world seems to have some type of subscription service. And trust me, I was in the exact same boat as you. And that's where Rocket Money comes into play. Rocket Money is an all-in-one platform that allows you to save more and spend less. Their finance app allows you to manage all your subscriptions, manage your bills, set custom budgets, and even grow your savings all in one place. I'm using Rocket Money to help manage my subscriptions just because there's so many out there right now. I couldn't tell you how many times I've lost track of these subscriptions that I'm still actively paying for that I never seem to use, and thankfully, with Rocket Money, I've identified those subscriptions and canceled them via their app. Rocket Money is currently trusted by 3.4 million users and actively growing. So if you're interested in Rocket Money, you can go to rocketmoney.com/dynasty or click the link in the description below to get started. Sign up for premium to unlock additional features. That's rocketmoney.com/dynasty to get started saving money. Again, shout out to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. It has begun. Now let's kick things off with the male characters I'd like to see in Mortal Kombat 1. If I had my choice, you already know. The first character I'm name dropping is my boy Sizoth Reptile. He's not been around since Mortal Kombat X, and I miss him. I know he's definitely one of the most in-demand characters to see come back in Mortal Kombat 1. This game is called Mortal Kombat 1, and obviously that's when he made his appearance as a secret character, so doesn't it make sense? We gotta bring back Reptile. I'm gonna piss off some people, but again, I want to see my boy as a lizard being, not as a humanoid. I like lizard Reptile. I know that's kind of controversial, but that's just my preference. So yes, I want to see Reptile come back. Where has he been? And hopefully he just won't be a jobber taking orders from the likes of Shang, Tsung, and potentially even Onaga. I hope he actually gets some redemption here. Reptile, I miss you, buddy. I hope you come back for Mortal Kombat 1. Now, next up is a character who was a DLC not only in Mortal Kombat 11, but also back in Mortal Kombat 9. That is none other than the Edenian Prince, Rain. Purple Rain. Yes, it's been so long since Rain has been a base roster character, going back to the days of Armageddon, and before that, I want to say Trilogy. So it's been long overdue since we've seen this guy actually featured as part of the base roster. Now, we seem to have some type of Edenia storyline teased in the announcement trailer. So how are you to have an Edenia storyline but not have the Prince of Edenia? So I'd like to see Rain come back. I love the new weapon they introduced back in Mortal Kombat 11 as well. I like the look, the design, the gameplay. I think there's a bunch of potential for this character as well. So Rain, Purple Ninja, who doesn't love ninjas? I hope he does come back on the base roster for the first time in over like 15 years. Speaking of ninjas, what about Ermac? Back in Mortal Kombat 11, our boy falls to his death in the crypt in the pit, and it was really bittersweet to watch because we got that amazing redesigned costume, which kind of was a waste. So I'm not sure if we're gonna have a gear system or some skins, but at the very least, I hope that redesign gets featured in MK1. And of course, who doesn't like "We Are Many, You Are But One" telekinesis red guy? It's Ermac, one of the fan favorites that everybody wanted to see back in Mortal Kombat 11 who didn't make the cut. So again, I think just like Reptile, he waited a game. It only makes sense to bring back everyone's favorites soul vessel. And hell, just like Rain, maybe that MK9 ending where King Jared's soul is in Ermac somehow is revisited in the canon lore for MK1. I don't know. Edenia's storyline, we can tie that in through Ermac. We'll see what happens. Now, again, We love the ninjas. Next up is Smoke, aka Anenra. Going back to the days of Mortal Kombat X, thankfully we had him in that faction kill, and we also had him via Triborg, but I wanted to see Revenant Smoke get his due back in the day, and we didn't get that. They introduced this whole demonic smoke spirit storyline at the end of the ending for MK9 for Smoke, and it just never really got used. So I love to see that not wasted, because I know those endings aren't necessarily canon, but if there was ever a time to take advantage of the introduction of this Anenra spirits, why not now? Where there's smoke, there's fire, just like Ermac, just like Rain, just like Reptile. All these OG ninjas are in high demand, and I feel like Smoke, again, not in the last game, a return is long overdue. It was so fun back in Mortal Kombat 9, with us seeing Scorpion and Sub-Zero as part of the Lin Kuei. What about Smoke? Where is Thomas at? Is he maybe the leader of another clan? That alone, I think, has a bunch of potential to visit. So yes, I want to see Smoke come back in Mortal Kombat 1 on the base roster. Now, you know who also hasn't been around in a very long time? Reiko. Yes, Reiko has not been seen since Mortal Kombat Armageddon, and before that, MK4. And with us probably not going to get Shao Kahn in this game, why not give us mini Shao Kahn? He was featured in the Mortal Kombat live-action reboot film back in 2021. The tattoos were janky, but the character's always been better than what was presented in the live-action movie, so I do think the general of someone's army, maybe he could be the general of Onaga's army this time around, this whole rebooted storyline, I'm not sure, but I think mini Shao Kahn somehow can grab Shao Kahn's helmets, give you the hammer, give you the charge move, and you can kind of have Shao Kahn without him being oversized and a boss character, obviously through Reiko. So I'd like to see Reiko come back, because I think there's a bunch of untapped potential there, and again, long overdue return, a fan favorite who I'd love to see come back on the base roster. Now, next up is a character that I doubt we see as a playable character, fully fledged, maybe a cameo, but it's none other than Oni Draman. Yes, the man with a club and a mask that looks like Shrek. I miss this filthy creature. This dude used to have a wind-up overhead move. He used to throw flies at you. He had a earthquake move that would pop up the opponent's back in Armageddon. This guy, I thought, was amazing back in the 3D era, but sadly, Ed Boon hates this guy, but I don't care. Just like a few of these other 3D era characters, despite the hate he gets from Ed Boon and the team at NetherRealm, I do think Draman has a bunch of potential. I mean, he was nicknamed Draman the Tormentor. This guy was feared in the NetherRealm for a reason. He's essentially like a serial killer of the Mortal Kombat NetherRealm. How cool is that? The self-mutilation, the burn skins, I think you can do a lot of that in this new engine from a graphic standpoint, from an appearance standpoint. I love to see this guy's potential just completely used to its fullest. Again, it's been a long time since he's ever been featured, going back to the days of Armageddon. So yes, selfishly, I want Draman, but I know it'll probably happen. By far, probably one of my most favorite characters in all of the Mortal Kombat franchise. Honestly, he's probably like top 5 for me. I love Draman so much, but probably gonna be a cameo character. Maybe gonna have a assist where he throws flies, but regardless, I want to see Draman come back. Now, next up is the Goth King himself, Mr. Emo, Quan Chi. Quan Chi is killed in the events of Mortal Kombat X. He was not featured back in Mortal Kombat 11, but I still would love to see this guy in a perfect world come back in some capacity. There's nobody like Quan Chi. He's a staple of the franchise when it comes to big bads. I doubt we'll see him working alongside the likes of Shang Tsung in the story, but again, selfishly, I've always been a fan of Quan Chi. He's probably my favorite sorcerer in the entire franchise, so I'm not going to get my hopes up, but if I could see Quan Chi come back in modern day after resting from the last game, I would be so happy. Obviously, don't give me a horrible neck stretch fatality, maybe just one where he tears off a limb and beats you up with it over and over again like we've seen in the past, but I want to see Mr. Egghead himself make a comeback. I love Quan Chi. I think he'd be a great addition for Mortal Kombat 1's base roster. Next up is another 3D era character we've not seen in a very long time, and by far probably the most requested character from those 3D era games. It is the man they call Havoc, the Cleric of Chaos from the Chaos Realm. This guy has to be in MK1. We've been asking for Havoc to make a comeback since the days of Mortal Kombat X, so going on like 8-9 years. This guy has been in demand to be re-featured. He's been teased a few times in character ladder endings. Just recently, we saw him in Joker's ending. Him and Joker were buddies. He looked the exact same, sadly, in that ending, so I'm hoping if he comes back, we get to see him at his fullest potential, doing his net cracking moves, cracking his spine in half and spinning his torso in circles, cracking his legs and giving you a projectile move. I think there is, from an appearance standpoint, probably one of the coolest things you can do is bring him back and just make this guy as hideous as ever. In the same vein as Draman, this guy is essentially just a serial killer who torments people for the sake of chaos. I love this dude. I want to see Havoc cause some havoc in Mortal Kombat 1. By far, probably my most anticipated character to see come back in MK1. I think the chances are high, so I'm really hoping, at the very least, a DLC character, but I want to see in my perfect world, him on the base roster. Now, next up is a cheat code. Triborg. Now, I know, ideally, in a perfect world, I think we can all agree that Triborg, if he was canon, would be great because you could probably have both Ketchup and Mustard, aka Cyrax and Sector, but even the likes of Cyber Smoke and Cyber Sub-Zero. Hell, maybe we don't get Reptile, but we get, like, Cyber Reptile. Maybe Hydro finally makes an appearance. So I think the idea of Triborg, an all-in-one cybernetic ninja that gives you various characters in one via, like, you know, cloning abilities in the vein of like Chameleon would be amazing. Will it happen? I doubt it, but if there was ever a time to find an excuse to have an all-in-one robot that can just simply change colors and shapeshift into other characters, I think Triborg would be amazing. So that's my excuse to have Triborg part of the official lore and canon in the storyline. I doubt it happens, but if I could have my say, I think that would be perfect. So yes, I love to see Triborg become an official character in the canon lore, but we'll see what happens. Now, next up is another ninja. Surprise, Tremor. We've not seen Tremor since Mortal Kombat X. The one elemental ninja we do have, he was a DLC character. He's never been featured on a base roster, so I do think it would be cool to see him as a base roster character, and maybe he's like the leader of the Black Dragon this time around, because guess who's not going to be on my list? Kano. So maybe Tremor just takes the reins of that faction, and there you go. So I love to see all the ninjas on the base roster, including Tremor. I think there's a lot to do with that character. Again, our boy's never been a base roster character. We gotta change that. Now, the final male I have on my roster is none other than the blind swordsman from Deadly Alliance, Kenshi. Kenshi dies in the MK11 crypts, and thankfully we got a rebooted timeline, and I think it's been long overdue. I think Kenshi with his telekinesis, just like Ermac, has a lot of potential. The sword gameplay back in the Mortal Kombat X days, his variations were all very different and versatile, so I do think there's a lot to unpack with that character. Again, when it goes back to the fan favorites of the 3D era character, not only do the fans love Kenshi, but NetherRealm Studios also loves the character too, and he rested the last game. And if we don't get Takeda, at the very least, maybe we can get his father, the blind swordsman. So yes, Keanu Reeves' doppelganger for the MK1 base roster, Kenshi, I miss you. Now let's make our way to the females I'd like to see on the base roster for Mortal Kombat 1. Now first things first, Serena. Serena made cameo appearances back in the Mortal Kombat X story mode, and I thought that for sure she was a lock for the Mortal Kombat 11 roster, but she was nowhere to be seen. And if you do play her back in the Mortal Kombat Armageddon story, you do know that at the end of her arcade ladder, she kind of becomes a Cryomancer like Sub-Zero. So if we don't see the likes of Frost, why not give Serena some ice moves? I think that'd be really cool. She was only ever playable outside of Armageddon back on the, I believe, Game Boy Advance version of Deadly Alliance, so she's never had her chance to shine. I think she's long overdue for an overhaul. Again, she's got kind of a cult following as well. I love her look. She's a goth queen. I want to see Serena in Mortal Kombat 1. We need some fresh faces. I think she's one of those. Now, next up, again, is another character we see in the Mortal Kombat X story mode, but is not featured as a playable character in that game or in 11. It's none other than Li Mei. Thankfully, she was at least featured back in the 3D era games. I do think, just like Serena, we need some fresh faces, and I think Li Mei's return is long overdue as well. Boon's confirmed. We're going to see some 3D era characters make a comeback, and I hope they're not just cameos, because again, just like Serena, I think there's a bunch of untapped potential of Li Mei, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Lee May for MK1 base roster, I could get behind that. Now again, I'm on a roll with these 3D era characters. Natara, by far my favorite, most requested lady female character in the game. I want to see the only vampire in the Mortal Kombat lore make a comeback. This has been long overdue. We only have legit one vampire in this franchise, and she's not been around since Armageddon. And then before that, Deadly Alliance. And that, my friends, is a travesty. Not to mention, she's only featured in the live-action reboot film for like a minute, and then she gets killed by Kung Lao. So I want to see her come back so we get some respect on the vamps of Mortal Kombat. Again, just like Sarita, she's a goth queen. I gotta see Vamp Natara make a comeback. Just think about the fatality potential, man. She can jump on somebody's shoulders, take a big bite of their flesh, and just drink blood and spit blood. If we don't get Scarlet, at the very least, a blood-based vampire character with some wings, the aerial offense, dude, there's a lot. There's a lot. I want to see her come back so bad. Now, again, in the same vein of Rain, if we do get the Adenia storyline, I think it's safe to say that Sindel deserves a rightful spot on the MK1 base roster as well. She's also an OG. What's Mortal Kombat without Sindel? So with that said, I think Sindel just makes sense. So obviously, gotta have Mama Sindel come back. If you have Katana, you have Melina, you need moms, right? Again, in the same vein like Sindel, Tanya. If we're gonna have an Adenia storyline, why not Tanya? She rested back in Mortal Kombat 11. She was OP as hell for a few months back in the MKX DLC days, but she's not been on a base roster since Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Again, some fresh faces. I think the return is long overdue. I love to see Tanya make a comeback. I think there's a bunch of potential there for fire moves as well, so I want to see Tanya make a comeback. And speaking of like OGs, what's MK without Jade? Jade, one of the most OP characters currently in Mortal Kombat 11. Big fan favorites. Why not? We need somebody with a staff. She's got a staff. It's different. She's the only one with a staff I've mentioned so far. Hey, Raiden, your staff can wait. We got Jade carrying her staff. So Jade, you gotta have some lady ninjas. Why not? Speaking of lady ninjas, Scarlet, the overhaul back in Mortal Kombat 11, I think was well received. I enjoyed her gameplay back in that game. And again, it seems like most of these characters that come back get featured in like back-to-back games. I think Scarlet deserves another return. If you can get Devora for 2 games in a row, why not Scarlet? Again, just like I mentioned for Natara, the fact that she's a blood-based character and an OG ninja, why not? We need some more of these fan favorites in the base roster. I want to see Scarlet make a comeback. Speaking of OGs, what is Mortal Kombat without Sonya Blade? Gotta have Sonya on the roster. I got nothing else to say other than the fact that, well, it's Sonya. We got Johnny. You gotta give Sonya. Maybe they don't fall in love this timeline. I kind of would like to see a world where they don't fall for each other and give birth to Cassie. I think that would make for some interesting dialogue. So yeah, gotta have Sonya Blade in the Mortal Kombat roster. Now, last but not least is a mantle being passed from Nightwolf to Lady Nightwolf. It was featured in Nightwolf's MK11 ending, and I really do hope we get to see female Nightwolf. Ed Boon's mentioned how we're going to see a bunch of changes with the lore, and I'm hoping this is one of those changes. We found out in the last game that the whole Nightwolf mantle has been around for generations and generations, so why not just use the ancestor of Nightwolf that was a lady? I think it'd be a nice way to freshen up the character, a nice change of pace. So I want to see Lady Nightwolf featured in the Mortal Kombat 1 base roster. I think a lot of people do as well. Again, DLC character in the last game, I do think on the base roster as a female would be amazing. I want to see that so bad. So there you go. That is my list for male and female base roster characters. We're stopping at 28 right here, and honestly, I'm pretty happy. I think for the most part, most of you guys would agree that this is a pretty solid roster. A lot of fan favorites, a lot of 3D era favorites, a nice mix of old and new. I like what I'm seeing here. Now, when it comes to DLC, that's where things get a bit tricky. Now, obviously, pre-order bonus is confirmed to be Shang Tsung, but with this being a new era, we're going to need the combat kids to be featured in some capacity, right? If it can't be on the base roster via the story mode, what about DLC? And because of that, I think, well, Cassie and Takeda. Maybe Cassie comes from another multiverse where, again, Sonya and Johnny do give birth to her, but in this timeline, they're not, you know, her her parents, and I think that dynamic would be really fun to see play out in the character intro animations, so I want to see that happen so bad, and again, it's a good excuse to get the combat kids in there without them ruining this whole rebooted new era for Liu Kang. And again, like I mentioned, Takeda. I want to see Takeda and MK11 so bad, and I know I'm not the only one. Takeda, I think, is the best combat kid we got, so we got Jackie Briggs in the last game. Why not get Jackie's husband in a new timeline? Again, just like Cassie, maybe he comes from that, you know, the OG, most recent multiverse, and he's just completely confused in the intros, but he's still the Takeda of old. If Kenshi does exist in this new realm for Liu Kang, it'd be nice to see that dynamic as well, where it's like, you're not my dad, but you're my dad. I would love to see that dynamic explored via a DLC edition. So again, I think that's a good way to get the combat kids introduced without them being part of the game's core storyline. So yeah, Cassie and Takeda for DLC would be cool for me. Now, next up is Noob Saibot. Now, how do we get Noob if this is probably going to be OG Sub-Zero? Well, you make him a DLC character because maybe Sub-Zero doesn't die in this universe for Liu Kang. So you get Possessed the Bi-Han and Sub-Zero original Bi-Han. Two different characters. I think Noob Saibot also is a fan favorite, so from like a marketing standpoint, that DLC reveal would be really hyped, and it's a good way to get, again, Noob Saibot in this game without killing this new version of Sub-Zero where we don't even know if it's actually Bi-Han or Kuai Liang. I'm assuming it's probably Bi-Han, so get the Bi-Han of old, and then you get Noob Saibot. I think that would be an interesting dynamic to explore as well via DLC. Now, next up is by far one of the most fan favorite, probably wanted, modernized new characters in Mortal Kombat, none other than Erron Black. If you've noticed, I've not really had any characters that are projectile heavy, and I do think the Gunslinger from Outworld would be a great addition to have on the roster. We need some of those new, fresh faces, and I mean like new, as in like recent games. 3 games in a row is kind of OP, so making him DLC I think kind of would work instead of him being on the base roster 3 times in a row. And again, he is a fan favorite, so I don't think people would actually mind paying for Erron Black. Again, I do think that DLC reveal would probably be hype, so boom, Erron Black. We need a cowboy, we need a shooter, and I think that is a nice thing to have there. So Erron Black for DLC. Next up, we need some more creatures. Baraka. Where is the Tarkatan on the roster? Exactly, nowhere to be found. If we got Molina on the base roster as DLC, I think it'd be really cool, just like Noob Saibot, just like Erron Black, to see Baraka come back via DLC. Again, a fan favorite, hype, very different, very unique to the rest of the characters we selected so far. An OG, I think everybody would want to buy a DLC pack with Baraka in it as well. And finally, last but not least, we need a 4-armed creature, don't we? We always do need at least one. Why not Kentaro? He was teased in that Shang Tsung fatality back in Mortal Kombat 11. I think it would be amazing to get the Tiger Man back in Mortal Kombat. It's been a long time since he's been a playable character, going back to the days of Armageddon. Again, that was like 15 years ago. So I do think Kentaro would be a great addition. If you're not going to get Goro, if you're not going to get Shao Kahn, if you're not going to get any of these boss characters, if you're not going to get, you know, Shiva, these 4-armed creatures, why not give us a boss in Kentaro? I think that would be sick. So Kentaro is my final DLC character I would love to see on a Combat Pack 1 or 2 pack. So there you go in its entirety. Here is my entire list of characters broken down by confirmed, male, female, and DLC characters, including pre-order bonus Shang Tsung. 35, again, I think will probably peak just under 40, including a few guests as well. Maybe 4 or 5 guest characters, maybe like 2 DLC packs, split with like half guest, half Mortal Kombat characters. And honestly, I love it. I love my list. Do I think it's accurate? Probably not. But again, this is just my wish list. In a perfect world, everything I would like to see in a Mortal Kombat game. And obviously, time will tell how close I got to what I wanted. But at the very least, here is my wish list for Mortal Kombat 1. Again, if you guys enjoyed this video, please take a second to drop a like on it. Subscribe some more MK content like this on the channel. What characters do you want to see make an appearance in Mortal Kombat 1? Let me know in the comment section down below. Till next time, been your host, Dynasty. Guys, please take care, stay safe. I love you. See you in the next video. Peace.
Yeah. 87 on it crack, but I'm not superstitious. Count all these racks, I be steady, count 'em